I think we're ready to go whenever you are, Patrick.
See him, but
Yeah, we're having some audio troubles, Patrick. We can't hear you at the moment.
Cannot hear him.
Still nothing.
Can another gentleman on try to say something?
Okay, can you hear me?
There we go.
There we go. Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Are we ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, so I'll call a meeting to order of the Plan Commission for Monday, October 9th, 2023, 6 p.m. And Doug, have you noted the roll?
I have, yes.
Okay. And then we have a, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from September 25th?
Approval?
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Is there any, was there any corrections to the minutes?
No.
None here, no.
Okay, sorry, there's a delay and I can't wait. Okay, so the minutes are approved. And are there any appearances this evening?
I believe the two people are both here representing applications.
Okay, gotcha. So no other public appearances and unfinished business. A, public hearing for Ken Walls on request for consideration of a certified survey map to consolidate two lots for the purpose of constructing an addition to the single-family residence at 4405 Outlook Street. Case number 2015-2023. And Doug?
Yes, we're joined by the applicant, who I think, if you'd just like to say a few words or reintroduce. And
yeah, it's nice to see most of you again. I think last time I saw you was 2 weeks ago. Since then, we've done some more research on the property. We discovered some more stuff, and thankfully things are going a little better than the last time I saw you guys. I think I was pretty stressed out the last time I was here, so I apologize if I was a little shaken. But we discovered my property was not included in Replat A. My lot is oftentimes referred to as Lot 51 of the proposed Replat A in our property deeds, and apparently it got sold sometime between when they drew up the proposed replat and when the plat actually happened, so it wasn't included in Replat A. And has been passed down through the generations with the old meets and bounds definitions that we talked about last time. So we've continued proceeding with the CSM process, and I think it's gone up to Veerbeker now for review, and we're back for the second plan commission to clean that up. Maybe Doug can elaborate on that from a more technical aspect.
Doug?
I'm happy. I can sort of run through the staff report. I'm not sure I see anybody else here for public hearing. If maybe we could close that and move to consideration.
Yep. So we'll close the public hearing and move to consideration of action for the CSM for Ken Walls.
Thank you. So as mentioned, the request here is to consolidate portions of two lots into one. This was also conditioned by the Zoning Board of Appeals back in June, who did approve the request for the second story addition, conditioned that the two lots be combined in a manner satisfactory to the city attorney. This is really to alleviate any concerns with improvements being built across two existing lots. As requested at the September 25th meeting, city staff did coordinate with a licensed land surveyor from Veerbeker, as well as the city attorney and the city administrator and the applicant. We had a couple of meetings to discuss this. You'll see in the materials in the packet that was both the email as well as sort of the more formal review letter. The email kind of gives background as the applicant has run through here. In that, as you know, I shared all of the materials, kind of the paper trail and the discussion. It was shared with me that had that have been recorded, had that have been included, as I think the commission was thinking, we wouldn't have had to have this meeting, and things would have been a little simpler. But without that having been recorded, and sort of as shown in the description that it still talks about lots 5 and 6 of the original Shore Acres plat, it was suggested that the CSM was most likely the cleanest way to address this. I would just point out as well the staff from Viabeca did mention the quitclaim deed. We did run that to the city attorney. His opinion with that was that that's a good way to transfer ownership, but that the legal combination of the two lots would best be done by CSM. So we've kept it on its current path, and are certainly working with the applicant to move this through the city process. So with that said, it came through Public Works Committee last Wednesday and was recommended unanimously to City Council for approval. The Viabeca did take a look at this sort of from their more formal review process, and you'll see that memo is also included as well. So a couple of the details here. The proposed land division, it shall front on dedicated street at least 60 feet in width. The outlook street here is 50 feet of right-of-way, 50, with a roadway of approximately 25 feet. Again, typically, the commission is comfortable with that if it's an existing condition. Again, a couple of the dimensions here in terms of the lot size overall, being just over 7,600 square feet here, and is accessed off a 12-foot driveway. And then again, the building line here is approximately 55 feet at the southern end, at the widest point there of the lot. Again, I think generally the consensus from the last meeting was that the commission was comfortable with those conditions being existing, but just something, just points to bring up for discussion. The plans were shared with department heads, and there were no reviews or comments that were included. And with that, the recommendation is for Plan Commission recommendation to City Council of approval of the one-lot certified survey map with the two conditions included in the staff report. Thanks.
Okay. So we all sort of went and are familiar with this from last week, from our last meeting, and there really isn't much in the way of new data. So is there any further discussion from the commission on this topic?
Chris Holmberg has his hand raised.
Chris.
Thank you. So I just want to be clear. So from what I understand, that lot line still exists right through the middle of your house.
I think so.
Yeah. I believe so, from what I've read. So at that point, I think it was really prudent, Doug, to keep this on track so it can go through. But I also think I agree with the city attorney. If you quit claimed, you'd still have a property line running through your house. And
right.
Technically, the state of Wisconsin, it's illegal to build a building like that across the property line. So I think this is a good route to go. As far as the lot dimensions and fronting on roads and the access, this is an existing lot. We're not creating this lot. So I think we just add a finding of fact that this is an existing grandfathered property, thus we aren't enforcing the requirements for a new lot for frontage and right-of-way width, because there's nothing we can do about that like on other ones. If we're creating a lot, well, the intent of that is if we're creating a lot to hit the city standards,
Yeah.
This is over 100 years old, so it wouldn't be the intent to take away the use of a grandfathered property. And that's really all I have, other than I think I would agree very strongly that this protects you to be able to get that CSM. Now you have a building that's not across the property line.
Yeah.
So I think it's unfortunately a good way to go, and nobody's ever been against it. So.
Corrine has her hand raised.
Corrine?
I just have so the bank is cool with this not to, because
I don't really know the answer to that. I've talked to two different people at the banks and gotten two different answers. One told me that if we created a new CSM, it would create a new property and I'd have to get a new mortgage on the property. The second person I talked to told me they didn't think they had to sign anything for a CSM. And I'm pretty sure that's not correct either, because like if you look at the state of Wisconsin platting manual, which I actually downloaded and read, which was kind of arduous. I understood about a third of it. But it even has a sample like certificate from the mortgagee that they're supposed to sign that authorizes it. And I'm sure somebody at the credit union has to fill that out. But I have no idea who it is that fills that out at the credit unions.
It was just my curiosity.
Yeah.
But I was, that was concerning last
Yeah.
time when you mentioned.
Their instructions to me were to email their research department and have them open an investigation. So that's what I did, and I've yet to hear back from them. So, but they did warn me it could take a very long time to resolve. So that's kind of where we're at there.
Chris had his hand raised.
Thanks. Yeah, if you look at the conditions of approval from the surveyor, that one condition is a certificate of mortgage.
Yeah.
Or the consent of mortgage certificate. And if I were you going back to the bank, we'll say it here, but you say it again, it's the same property. It's just clearing up an old property line that should have been cleared up a long time ago. It's the same exact property. You're not changing anything other than clearing up an old lot line.
I think it's just a matter of finding the right person at the bank that can
Yep.
autograph that. You know,
Yeah.
it's obviously not the person that answers the phone lines, and it's probably not the teller that I talk to
No.
either. So,
And Ken, as you know, when we met last week to discuss this, I'm working on that for you.
Thank you,
So,
Patrick. I
get in
appreciate
touch with that right person.
he's got connections. So,
Good.
Any other comments? Can we get a motion?
I'll move that we recommend the city council approve this as written by staff, but added finding of fact that this is an existing grandfathered property, thus we are not enforcing the new requirements for a newly created lot.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
I appreciate it. Thanks
Yes.
so much.
All right. Moving on to number 7, new business. Public hearing on request by U.S. Air Force Recruiting, represented by CRNA Custom for approval of new signage at 6524 Monona Drive, case number S0222023. Doug?
Yes, I believe we're joined on Zoom tonight by Dennis Bies, who is representing the applicant. Go ahead,
Dennis?
Dennis, if you'd like.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening. Would you like to describe the project to us?
Yeah, sure. So what we're doing is we're putting some security film on the windows at this location on Monona Drive. That security film, currently we're going to cover the middle windows, which takes it a little less than 50% of the total window coverage there. But what we would also like to do is use some of the security film that has just very minimal printing. It has a couple of logos on there, and stating that there are no guns allowed inside, that kind of thing, for the purpose of being able to. They currently have window shades in there that don't really allow them to be able to see out as well. It does stop people from seeing in, but it doesn't allow them to see out as well as the security film does. So what we would like to do is do just a plain white on the door with those logos dispersed. I think there's like 6 of them. I think maybe they're in the. There's some pictures of what this is that you can see. I don't know if you have those.
We do.
But
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, we do.
And then, because we're only doing the center section of windows, a second part of this that we'd like to also do is to put some dark tint on the upper and lower windows. Currently, they have some ballistics panels on the lower half of these. They're a freestanding ballistic panel that you can see through the bottom windows when the blinds are up from the inside. And just to create a more natural appearance there, do that dark window tint on the upper and lower windows to give it a more sense of continuity.
Okay. All right. Then, unless there's anything else to describe at this point, we can close the public hearing and move on to consideration.
Well, one other thing I'd like to mention, in those photos that I sent, the idea of this film is in the later hours of the day when there's light inside and not outside, it's fairly easy to see through this security film. But if let's say there was something going on outside and it happened to be dusk or nighttime they would be able to turn the lights off on the inside of the building and then be able to readily see outside and no one would be able to see in.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I don't know if you know what the film is like. It's kind of like if you've been on a public transportation bus or something that has a graphics wrap around it, if you will. So the windows may be covered, in which you can see out, but you can't really see in unless the light is ambient that way.
Okay. Great. So with that, we can close the public hearing and move on to B, consideration of action on request by U.S. Air Force Recruiting, represented by Sierra Night Custom for approval of new signs, 6524 Monona Drive, case number S022-2023. Doug?
Thank you. So as mentioned here, the applicant is seeking new window signage. It's building C of the Pier 37 development at 6524 Monona Drive, seeking an exception from the existing sign code requirements to allow for additional window signage greater than what is allowed with security reasons in place for the office. So the building itself is located within the Community Design District, CDD, and there is also a comprehensive sign plan for Pier 37 which regulates the wall signage for the building, but does not specifically regulate the window signage itself. Within the CDD, the window signage regulations would be 50%, 50, of the total glass area. Typically, city staff sort of interprets that as, the vertical plane in this instance with the 3 windows rather than 50% of each pane, sort of moving, from top to bottom there. And so the assistant planner, Jepson's been working with the applicants on this to sort of refine the design. And as mentioned, the proposed graphics sort of across the middle pane there, total 49% of the total area, excluding the door window, with the remaining 51% to be covered by window tint. The sign code does not permit window signs to be placed on a door window or other windows needed to be clear for pedestrian safety. And as proposed, the request here would have a window film with a degree of transparency on that door itself with a couple of the graphics as well. It's being shared that the main reason for this is definitely for safety concerns, and the element of the window tinting that would sort of be on the top and the bottom of all the window panes, sort of sandwiching the main graphics there, would also be covering some ballistic paneling that runs along those as well. One thing that I did want to share that was not ready in time for the staff packet that went out, I did share this with department heads, but specifically with the police and fire chiefs as well, just for their opinion. The review and sort of their feedback that I got was that several businesses might express general safety and or privacy concerns. They have no real concerns with the general images, sort of the main, I'd say sort of the 3 sections there. But they're not in favor of allowing full signage on the front entrance portion of the space. They would prefer at least the door not to be covered as a matter of public safety, despite how it's currently situated today. And that was from Police Chief Cheney, and that was then the Fire Chief concurred with that as well. So just wanted to share that with you. So the recommendation for the Commission is to discuss this, the appropriateness of the request, and if they so choose, suggested approval with findings of fact and conditions are listed as well in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Chris, would you like to start?
Sure. I actually think this looks better than what's there right now with all the shades drawn, so I have no issue with it. And if fire and police both are against an exception for that front door, I would stand with fire and police and say that we've got to put that information somewhere else. Perhaps one of the panels to the side can't have an image on it. It might be the panel that gets that, but I would go along with the recommendation from staff, fire and chief specifically on that.
Awesome. Anyone else?
I totally agree with what
Yeah.
Chris said. I don't have a problem with the imagery of how it's portrayed, especially for safety concerns. It's not lettered signage, but I would agree with fire and police comments.
Anyone else?
I guess I would just add, I understand the security reasons, but it also does seem like a security reason to not be able to see into the building at all. So are you open to that, or are you just going to keep pulling the shade down on the door?
Is that to me?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm looking at you.
Great.
But
Yes.
I can't tell I'm looking at you.
Yeah, that's what they would do. They would just keep pulling the shade down on the door. And what I'd like to propose is it possible that we would cover the door, fire and police could come out and take a look at it and see how this film actually creates it makes it easier to be able to see in than it does through the shade that's been pulled down. I would be more than happy to do that, and if they don't like it, we could remove it, and then for the logos that would need to be on there, we could do those just on the lower half, which Mr. Jepson had mentioned we could possibly do as well. So we could put it up, get their blessing or denial, and if that's the case, we could just put the logos on the same type of material on the lower half of the door.
I would be okay with that. That seems like a reasonable compromise, as long as you'd be willing to take it off if they said that they didn't feel it was appropriate.
And that's why those pictures I sent some that are of some interior office windows that we did for the Marines that show how you can actually see through the material both directions when you have lighting on each side like that.
Great. Anyone else? I can't see if anybody has a hand.
Susan.
I would agree with that I'd be interested in having the police and fire chief have another look to see if they thought that was reasonable. Because I understand that it's also safer to be able to see out, to see who's coming in, too, than having shades. Well, I was kind of surprised to see the whole thing covered with shades, because I thought, that's kind of, I think this is overall better and will look better. And there are safety reasons to be able to see out the door from the inside as well. So, yeah.
All right, any further comments from the commission?
Chris?
Okay, the comment I would have is I agree wholeheartedly with having police and fire having the final say on it, but if for some reason they don't want it, I would think we would still want the same panel or putting above and below that you can kind of see through, but not really, and I would think they'd want that too, so that could still be put on the door versus a blind.
Right.
Just, it would be whether or not police and fire allow the logo and the
Right.
writing.
Okay. Right.
That makes some sense. Then they get the opacity they want, but they still have some ability to see through, which they don't have right now with the shade drawn.
Right. Yeah,
No?
that makes sense.
I think there's a couple options here at play. As I understand it, the door would be a different treatment. It would be more of a white vinyl that has that. It does have a degree of that opacity,
Okay.
but maybe the alternative could be, I think, as being mentioned, more of the tint that would be on the top and the bottom. That if the white is maybe not to the specs of the Chiefs, possibly just doing a tint, which would probably have greater light, pass through and an opportunity there.
Would it be all right to leave that up to staff?
Absolutely.
Why, he's asking us commission.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well,
Okay.
all right. If there's no further comments, could we entertain a motion?
I'd make a motion, finding of fact, change the verbiage, additional window signage may be warranted, given the property's demonstrated need for heightened security. And the same thing on number 2, an exception allowing for signage on the door may be warranted as it provides additional security. And then condition 1 would now be that police and fire have the final say on any logo or copy to be placed on the entry door, and staff will have the final approval on what material overall gets put on the entry door.
Great. Can I get a second?
Second.
And any further discussion?
I went fast.
On the motion.
I mean, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two things there. There's the film first,
Right.
and then
The
where,
copy.
where the logos go.
Right,
They go there
right,
or on the
yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that basically is up to all staff, between fire, police, and our staff.
Okay.
to determine that. But that,
Okay.
I agree with the applicant that it's nice to see it out in the field and
Right.
see if it's an impediment or not, and if it, as long as the applicant's willing to take it off, knowing that the recommendation from police and fire was not to have it, but if you're still willing to try it and not have a problem taking it off. I saw him nod, so.
Yep.
All right. There's no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
And then we've got reports of staff and commission members. Doug?
Thank you. I'll keep this short. I know there's a game on this evening. Just updates for everybody. The Bloom, PIP, and CSM are coming through for formal consideration. We have the materials. They will be on for the next meeting, October 23rd. Obviously taking up the bulk of the agenda there. And then, if I may just jump to the sustainability efforts, I just wanted to give a shout out that the city was awarded a Dane County Climate Champion Award in their Emerging Star category for fleet operations, specifically for the hybrid and EV upgrades within both the Parks Department and Police Department. So just wanted to share some good news there. A little more detail of that was in the September newsletter that went out just about a week and a half ago. That's it from me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doug. Do we have anything else?
I have a question.
Kareem? Yep.
Patrick, do you have an update on the housing committee? The Dane County?
I do not.
Okay.
Nope. It's so the original the strategy process is over, and now there's a little break until we get the implementation committee together. So that probably won't happen until November.
Okay.
All right. And if there's nothing else,
Question?
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chris?
Question from Chris.
Thanks. I'm on the far end. You
Yep.
can't see me.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Chris.
I have a question on a point of order, really. Tonight's meeting made me think of it. In the past, Plan Commission elected a chair of the body in case both council members couldn't be there. So it's a question, number one, that got in my mind. If both you and Nancy or whoever the council members aren't there, number one, would the council be comfortable with having a chair that's not a council member? The only reason I say that is, for example, if you're both out of town and staff has to communicate, they have to communicate with the chair of the Plan Commission. If you're not there to communicate with, the reason I say that is it could be elected on that night, but it would be nice for staff to know who's going to be there, and be nice for that person to know that they're going to be chairing the meeting in case. I've not seen it happen in a long time, but it has happened in the past. So it's just something we should talk about.
I'm absolutely okay with that. I mean, coming from sitting on committees in the city of Madison in the past, for me, I've always been sort of like, why do we do this the way that we do it in Monona, in the sense that, city of Madison committees, it's always alders aren't chairs of committees. So I don't see any reason why we couldn't have an alternate in case,
Right, I understand the city with Plan Commission has always been very important for them that a council member can come back with a full report, reasoning on what's going on to the council.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Sure.
I get that, but I'm just worried about the case where some application needs to be heard, and you and Nancy, for example, right now both have to be gone. And if you agree, then we should talk about it for the next agenda and perhaps put it on as an agenda item.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah, and that said, I mean, there's not really any circumstance that I would miss a meeting with the ability to do Zoom. I mean, it's rare, especially because it's on Mondays, so, but anyway, yes.
I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you with that knife.
Oh, sorry. Fidgeting, so.
Destroyer with destroyer.
Couldn't help it.
Sorry about that. Yep. All right. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.